I was in the middle of an important meeting at Morrison and Associates law firm when my phone started buzzing with calls from my fiancé, Connor. His voice was cold and unfamiliar when I finally answered, nothing like the warm tone I was used to hearing. "We need to talk. Now," he said, and something in those words made my stomach drop. I could hear the pain and anger underneath his controlled delivery, and I knew something terrible had happened. "What's wrong?" I asked, stepping into the hallway. His response shattered my world. "Your sister sent me medical documents proving you're pregnant with another man's child. The engagement is off." Before I tell you how my sister's lies cost her everything she never knew she had, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from and hit that like button if you have ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted completely. Subscribe, because what she did not know about my financial support will blow your mind. Let me give you the full picture of what my sister Jenna had no idea she was about to lose. At 32, I had worked my way up to senior associate at Morrison and Associates law firm, earning $180,000 a year through 16-hour days and weekend sacrifices. But what nobody knew, especially not Jenna, was that I had been secretly supporting her entire lifestyle since our parents died in a car accident when she was 18 and I was 24. I had become Jenna's guardian overnight, but she had always been too proud to accept what she called charity. So I created an elaborate fiction to preserve her dignity while ensuring she could pursue her dreams. I established a fake scholarship program called the Merit Academic Foundation and had all her bills sent to my address instead of hers. Every month for the past 4 years, I had been quietly transferring thousands of dollars to support the sister who saw me as competition rather than protector. The numbers were staggering when I actually calculated them. Jenna's tuition at her private university cost $45,000 per year, which I paid in full each semester. Her off-campus apartment rent was $1,800 monthly, and I covered every penny. Living expenses, groceries, and spending money added another $1,200 each month. Her car payments and insurance totaled $400 monthly, and I had added her to my health insurance plan for an additional $300. The total monthly support was roughly $4,200, meaning I had spent over $200,000 in 4 years, keeping my sister comfortable while she believed herself to be independent and self-made. Connor and I had been together for 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and planning our September wedding. He was a successful architect who valued honesty and commitment above everything else. We had built our relationship on complete trust and transparency, which made what Jenna was about to do even more devastating. Connor knew nothing about my financial arrangement with Jenna because I had never wanted him to think less of her or question her character. But Jenna's character had been showing cracks for months. She had become increasingly jealous of my relationship with Connor, making inappropriate comments about how lucky I was and how I did not deserve someone so devoted. She would flirt with him shamelessly during family gatherings, touching his arm unnecessarily and laughing too loudly at his jokes. When I confronted her about it, she would claim I was being paranoid and possessive. Recently, Jenna had been asking invasive questions about my personal life, my medical appointments, and my relationship with Connor. She had made several comments about Connor deserving better than me and how she could make him happier if given the chance. I had dismissed these red flags as typical sibling rivalry, never imagining she would escalate to outright sabotage. The irony was painful. While Jenna was plotting to destroy my happiness, I was working overtime to ensure she could finish college debt-free and start her adult life with every advantage I never had. She attended her classes in designer clothes I had paid for, drove a car I was financing, and lived in an apartment I was renting, all while believing she was proving her independence from her privileged older sister. I left work immediately and met Connor at our usual coffee shop downtown. He was already seated at a corner table, his face pale, and his hands gripping a manila envelope. When I approached, he did not stand to kiss me hello as he always did. Instead, he slid the envelope across the table with trembling fingers. "Open it," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. Inside were medical documents that made my blood run cold. Fake ultrasound images showed a 12-week pregnancy, complete with fabricated lab results, claiming I was carrying a child that was not Connor's. The paperwork looked official at first glance, with what appeared to be legitimate medical letterhead and professional formatting. "How could you lie to me for 3 months?" Connor's voice cracked with pain. "We have been planning our wedding, talking about our future children, and you have been carrying another man's baby this entire time." I stared at the documents in shock, my mind racing to process what I was seeing. "Connor, this is not real. I am not pregnant, and I have never cheated on you. Someone made these documents to hurt us." But Connor was too devastated to listen to reason. "The evidence is right here, Sabrina. Your sister brought these to me because she was worried about me marrying someone who would deceive me so completely. She said she struggled with whether to tell me, but she could not watch me marry a lie." As I examined the papers more closely, I began to notice inconsistencies that revealed the deception. The doctor's name was wrong, the clinic address did not exist, and medical terminology was used incorrectly throughout the documents. The dates did not align with any actual medical appointments I had attended, and the format looked amateur despite the official appearance. The realization hit me like a physical blow. Only Jenna could have accessed enough of my personal information to create convincing fake documents. She had been in my apartment countless times, had seen my medical files, and knew enough details about my life to fabricate something this elaborate. I drove straight to Jenna's apartment, the one I was paying for, though she did not know it. When I arrived, I found her in a state of panic, frantically trying to clean up evidence of her deception. My medical files were scattered across her desk, and her laptop was open to a graphic design program, displaying the fake ultrasound images she had created. "What have you done?" I demanded, standing in the doorway of her bedroom. Jenna's face went white when she saw me. "I do not know what you are talking about," she stammered, trying to close the laptop and gather the papers. "Do not lie to me, Jenna. Connor showed me the fake pregnancy documents. How could you do this to your own sister?" The confrontation that followed revealed the depth of Jenna's jealousy and entitlement. She finally broke down and confessed everything, tears streaming down her face as she tried to justify the unjustifiable. "You do not deserve him," she screamed. "You have everything handed to you while I struggle for scraps. I thought if he left you, he might finally notice me. I have been trying to get his attention for months, and he only sees you." The confession continued as Jenna detailed her manipulation tactics. She had been following Connor's schedule, accidentally running into him at coffee shops and the gym. She had been planting seeds of doubt about my faithfulness, making subtle comments about my late nights at work and my mysterious medical appointments. The fake pregnancy documents were her final desperate attempt to destroy our relationship so she could swoop in as his consoler and potential replacement. "You are my sister," she continued to sob. "You are supposed to forgive me. I was just trying to find my own happiness for once in my life." But the damage was already done. When I returned to Connor with proof of Jenna's deception, showing him the evidence I had found in her apartment, it was too late to save our relationship. While he believed my innocence regarding the fake pregnancy, the trust between us had been irreparably broken. "I believe you were not cheating," Connor said sadly, "but I cannot get past the fact that your own sister was willing to destroy us. How do I know what else in your family is not real? How do I trust that this level of toxicity would not follow us into marriage?" Despite my desperate attempts to salvage our engagement, Connor returned my ring that evening, and we both agreed that our relationship could not survive this level of family betrayal. The next morning, I made the first phone call that would change Jenna's life forever. I contacted the university bursar office and delivered a message that sent shockwaves through their accounting department. "This is Sabrina Morrison. I am canceling all payments for Jenna Morrison effective immediately." The university representative was confused. "Ma'am, are you saying you have been paying for Miss Morrison's education? Our records show she receives funding through the Merit Academic Foundation Scholarship Program." "I am the Merit Academic Foundation," I replied calmly. "And the scholarship is terminated. She currently has an outstanding balance of $22,500 for her final semester. If it is not paid within 10 days, please place an academic hold on her account." The second call was to Jenna's apartment complex, where I informed them that I would be removing my name from the lease immediately. As the primary tenant and financial guarantor, my withdrawal meant Jenna would be solely responsible for the $1,800 monthly rent due in 5 days. Without a co-signer and with no established credit history, the complex manager explained that Jenna would face eviction proceedings if the rent was not paid on time. Next, I contacted the insurance company to cancel Jenna's coverage on both health and auto policies. Her car insurance was terminated immediately, and I arranged for the car itself to be repossessed since the loan was in my name. Within 48 hours, Jenna would lose both her transportation and her medical coverage, leaving her with only the basic student health services at her university. By the end of that first day, I had systematically dismantled every aspect of the comfortable life I had been secretly providing for Jenna. The scholarship program that did not exist was officially discontinued. The apartment she could not afford was no longer guaranteed, and the car she thought she owned was already being towed from the campus parking lot. The phone call came that evening, and Jenna's voice was pure hysteria. "The school is saying I owe thousands of dollars. They are threatening to not let me graduate. What is happening?" "You owe exactly what you have always owed," I replied calmly. "I am no longer paying for anything." There was a long silence before Jenna's confused voice came through the phone. "What do you mean you were paying? I have the Merit Academic Foundation scholarship." "Jenna, there is no Merit Academic Foundation. There never was. I created it 4 years ago so I could pay for your education without hurting your pride. I have been covering your tuition, your rent, your car, your insurance, and your living expenses since you started college. Every single bill that you thought was magically handled by some anonymous scholarship program was actually being paid by the sister you just tried to destroy." The revelation hit Jenna like a freight train. In her shock and disbelief, she began to understand the magnitude of what she had lost. For 4 years, she had been living a life funded entirely by the person she had betrayed, never knowing that her independence was an illusion I had carefully maintained to protect her dignity. The desperate attempts at reconciliation began immediately. Jenna called me dozens of times over the following days, each conversation more frantic than the last. She begged, she cried. She made promises she had no intention of keeping, and she even threatened legal action for abandoning her. "I am your sister. You cannot abandon me," she sobbed during one particularly dramatic call. "You made your choice when you tried to destroy my life." I responded consistently. "I am simply respecting that choice by removing myself from your life completely." The consequences unfolded rapidly. Within a week, Jenna was forced to withdraw from her final semester just 6 weeks before graduation. Her part-time campus job could not begin to cover the expenses I had been handling, and her credit applications were denied due to her complete lack of credit history. The friends who had admired her financial independence learned the truth about her fake scholarship, leading to social embarrassment and damaged relationships. extended family members began calling me horrified by what they saw as my abandonment of Jenna in her time of need. But when I explained the full story and provided evidence of Jenna's deception, most of them understood my position. Those who still believed I should forgive and forget learned that enabling destructive behavior was not the same as showing love. The immediate aftermath was brutal for Jenna, but liberating for me. Within a month, she had been forced to move back to our small hometown to live with our elderly Aunt Margaret, working multiple minimum wage jobs to survive. The comfortable college lifestyle she had taken for granted disappeared overnight, replaced by the harsh reality of actual independence. For me, the healing process was complicated, but necessary. I began seeing a grief counselor to process not only the loss of my relationship with Connor, but also the painful realization that my sister had never truly appreciated the sacrifices I had made for her. Dr. Patricia Martinez helped me recognize the codependent patterns I had developed, always measuring my worth by how much I could do for others, especially family members who showed no gratitude. 6 months after cutting off support, I learned through our aunt that Jenna was attempting to complete her degree at the local community college. The transition from private university to community college was jarring, and she would need at least 2 additional years to finish her education. She was working nights at a 24-hour diner and days at a retail store, barely scraping together enough money for basic expenses. The woman who had once complained about not having designer clothes was now shopping at thrift stores and sharing a studio apartment with a roommate. Her social media posts, which had previously showcased an enviable college lifestyle, went silent as reality set in. Several relatives offered temporary financial help, but Jenna's ungrateful attitude and continued sense of entitlement quickly alienated these potential supporters. My own life began to flourish without the constant financial drain of supporting an ungrateful sibling. My savings account grew rapidly, and I was able to focus entirely on advancing my career. Within a year, I had been promoted to partner track at the law firm, and my increased earnings allowed me to pursue interests I had neglected while supporting Jenna. The most significant positive change was in my relationships. I began forming friendships with people who respected boundaries and appreciated genuine reciprocity. I started volunteering with legitimate scholarship programs, using my experience to help deserving students who actually valued educational opportunities. The work was fulfilling in ways that secretly funding Jenna's lifestyle had never been. 1 year after the incident, Jenna wrote me a long letter claiming personal growth and understanding of her mistakes. She requested a chance to rebuild our relationship carefully, avoiding any direct requests for money, while subtly hinting at her continued financial struggles. My response was polite but firm. I was willing to maintain minimal contact, but I would never again provide financial support or rescue her from the consequences of her choices. The real test of my resolve came 18 months later, when Jenna was hospitalized after a car accident. Without insurance, her medical bills began mounting quickly, and family pressure intensified for me to help with the financial crisis. Instead of providing a financial rescue, I offered emotional support and helped her navigate payment plans and charity care options. For the first time in her adult life, Jenna was forced to solve problems without my money as a safety net. The experience taught her lessons that my years of secret support never could. She learned to research assistance programs, negotiate with creditors, and find creative solutions to financial problems. The independence she had always claimed to have was finally becoming real, though it came with struggles she had never imagined. Connor and I never reconciled, though mutual friends reported that he had struggled with trust issues in subsequent relationships. When he reached out 18 months after our breakup to acknowledge that Jenna's toxicity had poisoned our relationship unfairly, I politely declined his suggestion that we try again. We had both become different people, and the innocent trust we had once shared could never be recaptured. My new relationship with James, whom I met through volunteer work, was built on complete honesty from the beginning. I told him about my family history and my firm boundaries around financial support, and he admired my strength rather than seeing it as coldness. We took our time building trust with no rush toward engagement, focusing on creating a foundation that could weather any storm. The most important lesson I learned was the difference between supporting someone and enabling them. For years, I had confused the two, thinking that my value as a sister was measured by how much I could sacrifice for Jenna's comfort. I learned that real love requires boundaries to be healthy, and that family loyalty must be mutual to be meaningful. 2 years after cutting off support, I had minimal but civil contact with Jenna. She had slowly begun to appreciate the years of sacrifice I had made, though our relationship would never return to what it had been before her betrayal. Trust once broken so completely could not be rebuilt with apologies and promises. The financial boundaries I established became a permanent part of my life philosophy. I learned that money given without gratitude becomes expected rather than appreciated, and that the most expensive thing you can give someone is everything, because they will never value what they did not earn. Jenna's desperate attempt to steal my happiness had cost her the very security she had taken for granted, teaching both of us that actions have consequences, even within families. What would you do if a family member betrayed you so completely that it cost you the most important relationship in your life? Have you ever had to choose between enabling a loved one and protecting yourself from their destructive behavior? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button if this story reminded you that your worth is not measured by how much you sacrifice for ungrateful people. Subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries with toxic family members and the courage it takes to choose self-respect over family approval. Please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that love without respect is not really love at all. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by what you are willing to accept, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let someone face the consequences of their choices. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it gives you the strength to value yourself as much as you value others, because true family builds you up rather than tearing you down.